Perseus was the first of the classical heroes from Greek mythology. Now, he was born on the island of Argos. Now, the king of Argos was Perseus, who was disappointed at his inability to have a son. Now, he went to the oracle asking if he would ever manage to have a boy. The oracle said that he never would, but his daughter, Danae, would, and this son would eventually kill him. So, to prevent this from happening, Perseus locked Danae in a bronze chamber in the courtyard of his palace. However, this chamber had no ceiling, so Zeus visited Danae as a shower of gold and later impregnated her, resulting in the birth of Perseus, whom Danae named Perseus Eurymedon. Now, when Perseus discovered that Danae had somehow still managed to have a son, he was furious, locking them both in a chest and throwing it into the sea. However, Zeus appealed to Poseidon to calm the seas in order to allow Perseus to survive. This was successful, and Danae and Perseus washed up on the island of Seriphos, where they were taken in by a fisherman named Dictys. Now, Dictys was the older brother of the ruler of Seriphos, Polydectes, but the throne was his by right, but Polydectes had taken it by force and exiled Dictys to the fringes of the island, where he lived as a poor fisherman. So Dictys served as a surrogate father to Perseus, raising him to manhood. And around this time, Polydectes took a great interest in Danae. However, he saw how strong Perseus had become and knew that he was determined to protect his mother from anything. And Polydectes was very much not a moral man. So Polydectes formulated a plan in order to get Perseus either sent away or killed. He held a party where each guest had to bring a gift. Perseus, being poor, had no gift to give, but he wanted to atone for this by saying to Polydectes that whatever gift the king wanted, he would obtain. So this was what Polydectes had expected, and he told Perseus to bring him the head of Medusa, one of the most infamous monsters from classical mythology. Now, accounts on how she became such a monster vary. The original myths say that she was born in this state. However, the later myths, especially those composed by the Roman Empire, mostly those by Ovid, try to portray her in a more sympathetic light, saying that originally she was a priestess of Athena, who was courted by Poseidon and had intercourse with him. Whether it was consensual or non-consensual depends on the story being told. However, regardless, Athena was furious that Medusa had broken her vow of celibacy and transformed her into a terrible monster with a horrifying face, hair made of vipers, and a gaze that would petrify anyone who met it. So, in order to make sure that no man would ever look upon her again. However, this has less consistency, since it doesn't explain why Medusa's sisters, Stheno and Uriel, would have the same general appearance that she does. So, while the later myths are the more popular stories in terms of Medusa's origin, they don't quite have the validity in terms of consistency that the originals do. So, regardless, Perseus went to the oracle for guidance about his journey, and it directed him to the Grey, 3 perpetually old women who only had one eye to pass between the 3 of them. So, when Perseus went to them, he took the eye in order to ensure that they would guide him to the destination that the oracle had specified, the garden of the Hesperides, the spirits who tended the orchard of Hera. Now, when he arrived at the orchard, the Hesperides gave him a kibisis, a bag in which he could hold Medusa's head, so that it wouldn't petrify anyone who came near. However, when he reached the orchard, Hermes and Athena also appeared to him, revealing that they were his half-siblings and that he was the son of Zeus. So they each gave him their own gifts in order to assist in his journey. Athena gave him her shield, the Aegis, which was an extremely reflective surface so that Perseus could slay Medusa without having to look into her eyes. Hermes gave him the sickle used by their mutual grandfather, Kronos, to castrate and banish his own father, Uranos, the sharpest sickle in the world, as well as Hades' helm of darkness, which would turn the wearer invisible, and Hermes' own winged sandals, in order to help Perseus travel faster. So they then directed her to Medusa's cave, at which point Perseus managed to find her sleeping and decapitated her. Now at this point, two beings were created when this event occurred. Pegasus, a winged horse whose name literally means he who springs, and Chrysaor, whose name means golden sword, although he was a young man, a human man. Now, these two beings were considered the sons of Medusa and Poseidon, and exactly how this is so, once again, depends on the tale of Medusa that you subscribe to. If you believe in the newer myths that Medusa had sex with Poseidon, then these two were born from her. They sprung from her neck as soon as Perseus beheaded her. However, if you believe that Medusa was originally a monster, was always the way she was, then while Perseus stowed away her head, drops of her blood fell into the ocean and mingled with sea foam, creating Pegasus and Chrysaor. Due to sea foam's involvement, this could be construed as Poseidon being their father. So as Perseus was taking Medusa's head away, he flew by the kingdom of Ethiopia, where he noticed a woman chained to a rock. This was Andromeda, the princess of Ethiopia. Now, she was being sacrificed to Poseidon by her parents, King Cepheus and Queen Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia had boasted that Andromeda was more beautiful than the Nereids, spirits of the ocean, which were under Poseidon's domain. So this greatly angered Poseidon, and he sent a sea monster called a ketos, which was really reminiscent of a large whale, perhaps, to destroy Ethiopia until some sort of retribution was taken for the king and queen, for the queen's hubris. So, upon consultation with many sources, including the oracle, the king and queen had decided that the only way to appease Poseidon would be to sacrifice their daughter to the ketos. However, Perseus used Medusa's head to petrify the ketos, freed Andromeda, and took her for his wife. So when Perseus managed to return to Seriphos, he discovered that in his absence, Polydectes had been planning to forcibly marry his mother, at which point he used Medusa's head to turn Polydectes and his entire court to stone, in rather deliciously ironic twist of events. And he restored Dictys to the throne that had been rightfully his. Now, at this point, some of you may be wondering, the reason this all started was because of Acrisius, and how he wanted to subvert the prophecy of Perseus killing him, and how, well, nothing related to that has transpired so far. Well, this occurred in an incredibly roundabout way. Now, by the time Perseus did eventually return to Argos, Acrisius had already been exiled by his brother Proetus, who had taken over Argos in his stead. Now, because Proetus had taken a throne that was not rightfully his by force, Perseus turned him to stone with Medusa's head. And this would have been the point where Acrisius had been restored to the throne. However, shortly before returning to Argos, Perseus had stopped at Larissa, where its king, Teutamides, was holding funeral games for his father. So competing in these games, Perseus threw a discus which veered off target and struck an old man in the audience, who happened to be his grandfather, Acrisius, therefore fulfilling the prophecy in a very oblique manner, but fulfilling it nonetheless. So once Perseus realized that Acrisius would not be coming back to take the throne, he instead handed over to Proetus' son, Mechapenthes, whose name literally means great morning, the son of Proetus. And he departed Argos. Now, Perseus was said to be the mythological founder of the ancient Greek civilization called Mycenae. So its accounts somewhat differ on exactly how the name of the island was procured. Some say that Perseus's sword scabbard happened to spontaneously fall on a spot that he declared to be a source of good fortune, and his scabbard was called Myces, which was the source of the island's original name, Mycenae. Others say that he found an odd water spring near a mushroom, also called a Myces, and this was how he discovered the name. Regardless, though, he was said to be the first king of Mycenae and the first great classical hero. And he was notable in that he was one of the very few heroes in classical mythology to actually have a happy ending. He married Andromeda. They had an extremely prosperous marriage, and they fostered a long line of descendants that included another very famous Greek hero, Heracles. However, that is the tale of Perseus, a very interesting one, and vote in the comments for whatever the next topic should be. Goodbye.